Hi there! If you're new to my sessions, here are the key takeaways you would expect from the sessions. So I'll cover the Wyckoff stages for Aptos, both in the weekly and daily time frame. Also the key price levels that the Aptos would find support or resistance, plus any breakout timing the charts are telling us. So let's dive into the weekly chart. Here, it's been a while we talk about Aptos, right? So a lot of things have happened. So this breakout from this little triangle over here has happened. So we can take away this line now. And then this bigger triangle, it also happened. So we can remove those as well. This hasn't happened. This you can consider a low point sign of strength, but it didn't test the orange key level of 6.18, so I don't consider that a sign of strength over there. So we will have to wait for that to happen. A test, definitely, but more than the test happened, we, or Aptos, have actually got into a spring in terms of Wyckoff terminology. So that's what we're going through right now, and that's what we're expecting to happen in order to confirm positive move towards a potential next distribution cycle. So the one we had back in December 2024 was the closest distribution cycle. Currently we are in a longer distribution, longer accumulation cycle, that Aptos hasn't experienced before, because during the 2022-23 period, it had one distribution cycle, different from some other altcoins where they basically went through a year and a half long of accumulation. Not that for Aptos. So here, that's what we are expecting to come, while there seem to be a key resistance over here around $3.8. That's the bottom edge of the long-term playground zone. The price 2 weeks ago went through this white dashed line, got to a level somewhere near, just slightly lower than the lowest point back in December 2022. So the next day, immediately it climbed back to the current level. So this white line we've drawn for quite a while. I'm just checking. Either this is not horizontal, which it is, so it's fine. So it's the box that's not horizontal, because I'm seeing a jaw over here. So maybe I should just adjust this slightly, because it's not easy to notice if we haven't drawn a line. Okay, an easier way? No, it doesn't. I'm just trying to align the line so it gets to the closest. So now it looks better. Before we get to the daily chart, let's quickly check the Bollinger Band current squeeze. Currently, Aptos is still in a squeeze situation, meaning a bigger wave is yet to come. So last time we had a squeeze, it was back in September 2024, and that's when, like, the time right before the distribution cycle. This time we have a prolonged accumulation, and currently a squeeze that started from late May is still happening. So eventually when the squeeze force get released, that's when we see bigger price swing. If you're new to this indicator, don't confuse it with an indication of going upwards. It doesn't work that way. So it only signals a bigger wave is coming. The wave can go down first before it comes up. This example is it went up and then came down. Okay, so just to be clear if you're new to that. And let's get to the daily and see whether there are any breakout time point that the chart is telling us. Bollinger Band counter squeeze in the daily, because of the previous crazy move, that squeeze force has been released. But you see over here, because of this rather flat period over the past 2 weeks, the purple lines are very quickly gathering or pointing towards the orange, meaning if the next couple of days the price still continues to trade narrow range right below this white line and above the dashed line that we have drawn, let me set it both lines to the daily as well, then we'll see eventually the squeeze happen, and then that's when the swing will come for Aptos in the daily chart. So enough for the squeeze. Let's go back to the Wyckoff. Here, I already mentioned there was no sign of weakness, no sign of strength in the weekly chart. So these two are basically the same as what we have covered in the weekly. I'll move them further down the timeline. What we have is actually this. This, now I would say just another deeper test. This is the actual spring that we are going through. So we had a rather flat period for 9 to 10 days over here between October 17th all the way to the 25th, just 2 days ago. Now the price is climbing. If this is a mini uptrend, let's use the blue that you are used to, and let's adjust it according to the bottom, the wicks of these candles. Alright, and then also the top as well, just to make sure it's wide enough. I want to enlarge this, so if you're watching on a mobile device, it will be a lot clearer. Alright, so sometimes you can't really get it exactly where you want it to be because of the snapping. See all that? Just checking this. Gonna do weak magnet and see what happens. No, it doesn't. Alright, just forget about it. It's good enough that this is close enough. So basically what we're expecting is the price came in, bounces off from the bottom edge, now bounces back from the ceiling. If I change it to a line chart, you see what's happening, right? So right now it seems to find support over here. What's interesting also is that this may be where the center line of the box is. So it cuts across quite a number of candles at this level. So what can possibly happen is that it can still trade along this uptrend on the upper half of the channel box, right? If it continues to find support above both the dashed lines, the blue and the white. That's one possible scenario. And eventually, if that continues, it will reach this point around the 7th of November, which is just like around 11 days from now. So if this continues, then you see this triangle over here, right? So there are two key indications when the price or the trading get to that part, meaning if it doesn't break above and got rejected back into the box, it can still continue, but it's gonna trade at the lower half of the box just to get to another breakout time point. If I extend the box, you see it's somewhere near just one more week after the 7th. Okay, so that's how, like, two ways. One is break above, which is a good sign because it breaks above this long-term playground zone bottom, the white box, the big white box, $3.8 around. Or it takes another week to gather sufficient strength or people's interest to try to break above again. So 2 attempts in 2 weeks. If it doesn't, so if it got rejected and doesn't go this path, the worst, or the worst case is like not as positive as the ones where we have talked about, is that I keep drawing the dots while I was talking. Clearly I'm bad at multitasking. So here, if it drops, if it got rejected and drops, and it doesn't continue to climb and got rejected again, then it's going to come back down to retest this 3.45 white dash line. Okay, that's I would say not the worst scenario. At least it's trading sideways between these two white lines, the solid line and the dash line. Not that it's coming back down to this level. Alright, so it's key that for the next 2 weeks, roughly more than 2 weeks if we count towards the 14th, 18 days in total, the 2 breakout time points over here, if like any positive move happens, then Aptos is going to go back to the long-term playground zone where there isn't much of a resistance until it gets to this point where the previous tests were, including these candles over here. So we've got 2 tests, one in August and other in September, and we are entering November. So 2 months after those, 2 to 3 months after those 2 tests, both in the beginning of the month. This may happen again in November if it really follows this upward channel to climb towards that particular line, because here, once the price climbs through the solid white line, there's no strong resistance in that range. There's 1 or 2 reference points, the 2 dips you can see right there. Okay, that's where the candlesticks are open or closed. Likewise for this one. So 1 intermediate level, those dips, and then when it passes through, that's a stronger resistance compared to this one. And then eventually it may return to challenge the 4.80 red key level. Alright, it's a very deep test for a couple of altcoins this cycle, and we don't know whether this is over yet, because a lot of times when accumulation happens, it can last for a very long period, even after the spring. So don't get like hot-headed thinking, oh, now is like 100% towards the upside. It's not like that. There's still, usually I don't write this because it's not a Wyckoff stage, but there is a chance of prolonged accumulation or sideways trading. Okay, so it can still happen along this level for a while before it comes back up to between the 4.80 and 6.18 key levels. Alright, so that's